Hey everyone, Robert here, author of Expansion Mastery, the practical guide to living a fully engaged life. Are you ready to start living life to the fullest? Are you ready and willing to transform yourself and your life from ordinary to extraordinary? Then let's get started. Welcome, my friends, to the Fully Engaged Life. Welcome back to the show, everyone. Well, I hope you enjoyed our special 200th episode that we released last Monday. It was such an incredible honor and privilege to have my wife on with me for her podcast debut. She's as intelligent as she is beautiful, and you don't get to see that because this is an audio show, so you're missing out a little bit there. But we're going to begin a podcast for Entangled Souls, which will be a bi-weekly show centering on conscious relationships. So if you're interested in really, truly having an incredibly happy and harmonious and healthy relationship, you will not want to miss out on a single episode of that show. We are going to turn what people believe about relationships upside down in order to reveal the truth and end this paradigm once and for all about opposites attract. For this episode, I would like to discuss a statement that I came across by the spiritual leader, the late spiritual leader Osho. Whether you like him or not doesn't make any difference. The material he has is extremely valid, and I suspect much of what we commonly believe is untrue because he was an actually awakened human being, and the powers that be just don't like that sort of thing. So here's a quote for you from him. "I want you to drop all games. Worldly games, spiritual games, games that the whole of humanity has played up to now. These games keep you retarded. These games hinder you from growing into consciousness, into your own ultimate flowering. I want to cut away all this rubbish that prevents you." End quote. Ah, the games people play. Little games, little games, right? It's important to understand what is meant by this statement and why such a statement was even necessary in the first place by such an awakened spiritual leader. The mind, specifically the ego, plays games all the time, loves the games. The crucial factor here is to recognize that these games are being played and how they keep us from engaging in important things such as spiritual practices that could result in our awakening. The challenge, however, arises from the fact that these games are, for the most part, unconscious. People are just not even aware that their mind is playing games, any more than they're aware that they have become severely addicted to all manners of games. Human beings spend a remarkable amount of time playing games. Games are designed to be a form of entertainment. They're fun to play once in a while, right? There's nothing wrong with it. Entertainment is usually fine in moderation, but moderation is the key. Games are fun to play, and especially on like a rainy day or when you're having a very low energy day, maybe you don't feel well, and you're just looking to pass the time. That's a function of a game. It helps you pass the time. Look at all these games, even on computers and your iPad, your phone, and all these other things, little handheld games. They're nothing more than a way to pass the time. But here's the thing, you don't get that time back. It's wasted time that could be put to far better use. Through my research, I have found that games were primarily designed for children to play and enjoy. Yes, there are also a few adult-based games as well, but the majority of the market was centered around activities for children, right? It was very common to see all of these television commercials on Saturday morning for all the type of games that were geared towards children. And that was designed so that the children would see them and want them. And even through that, we can see that marketing itself is a form of a game, isn't it? But there are games that parents can spend quality time with their children as they play them, right? Teaching them how to play games, how to interact with one another, the value of the lessons in winning and losing, things like that. Very simple lessons that you give small children, right? Small children. I think that's the focus here. Games were primarily meant for these children, not grown man children. Young children, right? Look around. Today, young kids have very little interest in games unless they're digital, unless they're on an iPad. Then they have their little earbuds in and they're walking around. My wife and I passed a woman with a small girl, maybe about 7 or 8 years old, the other day, and walking downtown. And as we passed him, little girl had earbuds in and had the iPad in front of her. She was just totally oblivious to the world around her, completely and utterly disconnected visually, audially from everything around her in the real world, and just walking along behind her mother playing a game. And that to me is very, very sad. That's an example of poor parenting. So the games today are not that popular with children, but they're extremely popular with adults. They're absorbed in them. All the adult type games, the coloring books and things like that, they're all forms of escapism and distraction. They're all designed to keep you in an adolescent state of mind, to prevent you from maturing. Because if you mature, you just might seek some sort of spiritual awakening. You might seek the ability to shift your consciousness, because this is the time of the consciousness shift. Think about that and consider the implications. And don't blame me if all of a sudden you hear this sound of glass shattering. Entertainment has mutated into severe escapism and serves to keep you in a state of existence instead of really living. When you are addicted to these games, when you live your life playing games, you think you're going to make your living at it, you want to get paid just to sit around and play games, and all the while you are throwing your life away through this addiction to entertainment. When this takes place, a game is nothing more than a form of mental masturbation for the immature. It's a form of escapism and distraction in order to hide from reality and their adult responsibilities. That's why we have such an epidemic in the United States with those in their late 20s, their 30s, even their 40s and beyond, who we call a man-child. Right? Because they have never grown up. They have never matured. They hide from their responsibilities. They hide from taking their stance in the world. And you can tell who they are because they're those who are obsessed with gaming. At some point, we have to begin to question why this adult counterculture has formed in the recent years, where adults, especially in that age group that I just explained, are completely fascinated, even obsessed with games. Video games and board games alike have become their way of life. They want to play games as a way to make a living, as a way to pass their time away, as a way to hide away. That's a problem. Now, I do engage in a game. I play Yu-Gi-Oh! But before you call me a hypocrite, hang on. I play it with my young grandsons. And I mean young. 7 years old, 11 years old. Okay? I play it with my grandsons. And half the time they make up their own rules, and Grandpa gets obliterated, okay? And that's cool, because it's a way for us to relate and spend time together. So we engage in that game just like we engage in going outside and doing things. It's a way for us to connect and spend some quality time together, because we don't get that very often. And when we do, I like to make the most of it, and I like to connect with them as much as I can. So why Yu-Gi-Oh? Why a game? Because that's what they want to do. See, it's not me. You're not going to find me downtown at a local card shop sitting at a table with a bunch of other man-children playing this game. No. I play it because the children want to. That's what they want to do. I don't care what they want to do. For a while, we were playing Hot Wheels cars. Sometimes they make up a game. Sometimes we're playing trains. I'll play whatever they want to play just in order to interact and spend some really good time with these incredible little guys. But to me, there's just something a little unsettling when you see a bunch of adult men sitting at the table gathered around playing this game, and they take it so seriously. I went in to buy some cards one time to help build a deck, because I didn't know what this stuff was, right? And I was explaining to the guy what I wanted, what I was trying to get, and he was really serious about it, and he got kind of worked up about the rules. Well, that's not how you play it, and they need to play it right. And I'm going, dude, relax. They're like 7 years old. Come on. And he's like, well, still, the game needs to be played correctly. That's a problem. You're a grown-ass man, and you're going to get worked up about the rules for a kid's card game? Come on, bud. Come on. This is incredible to me. I don't care what rules. I'll play by whatever rules they want to do. If they're making stuff up, they're being creative, and I like that. I really enjoy doing things with them that fosters their creativity. But this is just an example how it's for the children. So let's take a closer look at this quote by Osho. What does he mean by worldly games? What are worldly games? This consists of many of the ways in which human beings play games with one another in order to manipulate others so they get their own way, so they can win. People play mind games in relationships, using jealousy and little tests, because they're so insecure that they need to make their partner feel even more insecure in order for them to feel a bit more secure. Yeah. A little twisted, isn't it? It's insane. That's the insanity of the ego. You know that by now. But it happens in every unconscious relationship. Why? Because both of the people involved are living unconsciously. This is one of the characteristics missing within a conscious relationship, a relationship of true soulmates. There are absolutely no games between my wife and I. That's right, that angelic voice you got to hear in the last episode, her and I never play games in our relationship. We're just on the up and up all the time. There's no need for games. Neither one of us desire it. Neither one of us feel the need for it. It allows us to experience a truly mature, healthy, conscious relationship. But take a minute and think about all the ways that people play games in a relationship. Think about it. Write them down if you've got a journal. If you really want to explore the depth of the importance of a quote like this from Osho, then write some of this stuff down. I mean, I could go through dozens and dozens of examples. I know I lived through dozens and dozens of examples in a previous relationship. So look at all the ways people play games. See, if you draw them out to where you write them down and you're aware of them, that brings them out of the unconscious realm of mind and makes you consciously aware of them. It's only then that you can start to work on such things. So if you want to increase your relationship, this is an exercise that is going to be more beneficial than most anything you're going to get from any marriage counselor. Write out all the games and then stop playing them. We all know that competitive sports are nothing more than a game. Yes, I know everybody around the world takes them incredibly seriously. This is the insanity of the ego. Look at the addiction these things have created. Look at the addiction throughout the world to organized competitive sports. I've already done an entire podcast on this, so I'm not going to go any deeper into this subject. So if you want to look into this more deeply, you can access that previous episode. Politics and religion are nothing more than games. Think about it. They're games of belief and perception. Wow. Have you ever realized that? Have you ever stopped to think about politics and religion? organized religion as being nothing more than a game of belief and perception? Politics is a game of perception and persuasion. Religion is a game of belief. Anything that focuses on winning and losing, or mine is better than yours, or mine is the only right way, it's a game, and it is appealing to the ego. Religion is a spiritual game, right? He spoke of spiritual games as well. Religion is a spiritual game. Just as much as all this new age, fluffy, silly stuff is a spiritual game. It's nothing more than a game. They get you playing with little pendulums and crystals and cards and, running to all kinds of little seminars and things. And they keep you on that string. It's just a game. It's a game. Look at religion. Religion is designed to make you feel better about death, to bring you a sense of comfort about the fact that you are going to die at some point. That's all it is. All you have to do is play the game. Get your mind to believe in some silly story, and you'll feel better. You'll be so much more comfortable. And then you can hide from the fact that you are going to die one day. Or you can believe that you get all of these riches and virgins and all of these other things, or that, you get to keep your identity. Those things are comforting, right? It's a spiritual game. So how often do we find ourselves playing spiritual games in our own mind? Games that our own mind, our ego creates in order to allow us to be more comfortable. See, all of these organized religions, they focus on making you feel more comfortable in life. But it's a false sense of security. And at the same time, we have to understand that no personal growth, no spiritual awakening can be attained in a comfort zone. It's only through the willingness to enter the unknown, to embrace the inevitable like death, and the willingness to be uncomfortable that allows us to grow and to awaken. Here's an example of a game that Osho couldn't even conceive of when he was alive. Have you ever questioned the little games that they give you on social media like Facebook, Twitter? You know the ones I'm talking about. Play this game to find out which superhero you are, or which Star Wars personality you're most like. You know what I'm talking about, right? You've seen those. I've seen them come through dozens of different forms. I watch and observe as so many people that I'm friends with on there are taking these little games, these little quizzes, answering all of these questions in order to try and manipulate it so they come out to be the character they most want to be. It's so obvious. Okay? But the answer is simple. Which character you most like? None of them. See, this is a game to stroke your ego while gathering your metadata. I mean, come on, we have to open our eyes and see the truth of what's happening in front of us. The ego can't resist playing these games, though, can it? It wants to be a certain character that it likes the most. So it can somehow, through some twisted form of mental delusion, identify with that made-up character. Right? These superheroes, the characters from the movies, they don't exist. Yes, the ego attempts to feel better, right? To be more comfortable by adding this type of layer to your identity. However, it's complete rubbish. You might say, but it's just harmless fun. It's no big deal, right? Really? Are you sure? This innocent little game bolsters your ego and adds new layers of untruth to your identity, taking you farther from truth and reality, farther from awakening. But it's harmless, right? It puts you in a deeper sense of sleep. But it's harmless, right? The purpose of such a game is to be a distraction, a way for you to waste your life away. A form of mindless entertainment, all of which serve to prevent you from engaging in meaningful practices that could result in your spiritual awakening. But it's harmless, right? Its function is to be disguised as a game, drawing you in through the ego, because that ego is easily hooked. And they're doing it to collect metadata in several forms from you. They're also watching you, right? The video is on, and they're monitoring and recording your facial features, subtle facial features. Okay? This is all proven. This is not conspiracy stuff. This is what they're doing. This is why you have webcam blockers, right? Because they're videotaping you 24/7. They've got audio 24/7 on all this stuff. But it's harmless, right? I see some of these coming through too with questions like, what was your favorite dog? Or what is the first type of car you ever have? Do those type of questions sound familiar? Yeah, they're usually used for your reminders, right? For PIN codes and other things like that, for your passwords. Yeah, you don't think somebody's trying to gather that? And then you wonder why you get hacked? Gee, it's a mystery. But it's harmless, right? Are you getting the idea? Games are meant to be a form of occasional entertainment, but they've mutated into this form of escapism, distraction, and addiction. A way of avoiding growing up and becoming an actual adult in the world, taking our stance as who we are in the world, living our purpose, living our passion, living a fully engaged life. So allow me to make this clear. Every single type of game, whether it be a video game, a board game, a mind game, religion, whatever it is, any type of game, any form of competitive sport, invokes the ego and serves to inflate that ego. This is diametrically opposed to any form of authentic spirituality, mindfulness, or awakening, and evidently maturity as well. Now, imagine, just imagine, if you could take all the time you spend watching sports, all the time you spend talking about sports, playing it, looking at stats and gathering memorabilia. Imagine if you could put all of that time into the practices of mindfulness or meditation. Not to mention, imagine all the money you would have if you didn't spend it on that stuff, right? But imagine if you could put all of that time that you've thrown away on a pointless distraction towards meditation. You would most likely be greatly awakened long before now. How far could you be if you hadn't wasted all of that time being entertained by games? Take a moment and think about that, please. Take a moment and consider if you had that time back, how much better use you could put it to. Now imagine, if you would, how incredible your romantic relationship could be if you could take all the time and energy that's been spent playing mental and emotional games and put it towards generating more love, appreciation, and mutual respect in your relationship. How truly blissful and loving would that relationship become? Consider that. Just imagine a relationship where neither person plays these type of mental and emotional games. Can you imagine that? Are you even capable of imagining what that could look like? You're not if you watch all the sitcoms, right? The sitcoms, if you watch any sitcoms on television, any of these comedy ones, all through the 80s was real popular with this, even in the 90s, right? All of these sitcoms, it was all like, according to Jim, those guys are, right? He's scheming and she's scheming and the brother and sister are scheming and the kids are scheming and everybody's scheming. Everybody's playing games, right? And it's funny. Why? Because it's true. That's what is the funniest. It's true because everybody's doing that, right? You look at King of Queens, right? Then Doug is always trying to have a scheme going. He's always trying to hatch a plan, and they always have some sort of game that's going on. It's amazing. It's amazing. If you look, his character lacks maturity as well. Take a look at any of the sitcoms from this perspective, and you'll see these games that people play. We laugh at them, right? We used to sit on a couch back in the 80s and 90s and laugh at these things, but nobody's laughing now. And we shouldn't have been laughing then, because those are examples of how we're not supposed to live. Right? I won't even get into daytime and nighttime soap operas and the games they play, because there's nothing worse than daytime soap operas. Well, maybe they're nighttime equivalents, right? But you look at all the games. That's what the whole premise of the show is about. These people playing mental and emotional games with others in order to manipulate them and get their way in some way. This is insanity. And that brings that insanity into our own relationships. And then we wonder why we have such unhealthy, unhappy relationships. Well, we don't need to wonder. We just need to open our eyes. So imagine if we could easily discern the fact that these games are a formation of the ego. And then we could understand that they're not healthy. They're not what we want to engage in. And we could bring the unconscious aspects of these games into the conscious realm of the mind where we could deal with them. This is what mindfulness practices, authentic mindfulness practices give you this ability. They enable you, they empower you with the skill to bring these unconscious mental processes into your conscious awareness, where you can then work with them. You can change them, you can dissolve them, you can get rid of them, you can do whatever you want. See, that is the purpose of a true mindfulness practice. So there's all kinds of things being called mindfulness out there, but if they're not doing that, if they don't have that capability, then they're a waste of time. They're not authentic mindfulness as the actual spiritual teachings present them. So take a moment and think about what your relationship would be like if neither of you played games. What if you could drop that? You didn't need the drama. You didn't need these emotional games. Instead, you can invest that time and that energy, especially the energy, into actually truly loving one another. Take a moment and sit back and try and envision that sort of relationship for yourself. Isn't that what you deserve? Isn't that what you actually desire? I know my wife and I do, and we live that. And if we can live it, then you can live it too. You know it's possible, and that's all that's necessary for you to bring it into your own life. So look at all of the way games manifest. Now we can understand that statement even more completely, can't we? Doesn't that make more sense now? All the games that the whole of humanity has played up to now, we can see how many ways they manifest. I'm just touching on a few of them because it's only a half-hour show, right? So you can come up with some that I didn't cover. How many can you find? How many do you see going on around you? I mean, it's just everybody's playing games constantly. These games serve to keep you retarded. And by this, he means that you have no growth. You have no progress being made. It retards your progress on a spiritual path towards awakening. It stunts your ability to do so. Can you see that now? These games hinder you from growing into consciousness, into your own ultimate flowering. Can you see that now? Can you understand why? Because they serve the ego. The ego is a false master. We want to connect to our pure conscious awareness, to our true essence. We want to be able to get in touch with that. We want to know that. That is our ultimate flowering. And you can only do that through meditation. You can't do that sitting on a couch watching sports or, getting pulled into politics. And I mean, come on, look at how crazy that has gotten right now. And religion is the same as following suit. You look at all these ways. People are playing games. No one has ever become awakened by sitting at a table playing a card game or a board game with a bunch of grown man-children. And the saddest thing is that you see these people throwing their lives away. They're wasting that precious time. Once you get a little older, you start to understand just how precious all this time is. And you stop wasting it. What I'm trying to do is help younger people as well to understand that, to see this earlier on, and stop wasting time, stop wasting your life, start living a fully engaged life as soon as you can. You won't regret it. You won't regret it. So you can do your part by cutting down on the games that you play. What games do you tend to play that maybe you weren't even aware of until now? Fully engaged life. Bringing the unconscious mind into conscious awareness. When we become capable of living a fully engaged life, there's never a need for drama, never a need for games, and the unconscious addiction to such things is overcome. The mind's focus shifts away from games to beneficial practices and spiritual expansion. Please make sure and visit me at www.expansionmastery.com. You can get a copy of Expansion Mastery, the practical guide to living a fully engaged life, for just $5, 75% off. Cover price. Go there now. All the details are on the website. Just enter in the code. You save 75% instantly. Grab yourself one of my programs as well, and please make sure and support us on all the social media stuff. We're actually trying to put out some quality information on the internet and on social media, and we need you to share what we are doing. Please support us through sharing, and please get something real out there. Instead of people wasting their time on these memes and games that are designed to extract your metadata, your physical responses, and help you waste your time, they could be listening to something that enriches their lives and hopefully sets them on a path to spiritual expansion and living a fully engaged life. Until next time, my friends, I wish you the very best in your practices and your life. Take care.